prevention and education. So that is everything from bringing in speakers to going into the classroom to talk on special topics, running different programs throughout the school with the kids as well.
My name is Faye Noble. Good evening, everyone. I'm Faye Noble. I'm the social worker here. I practically do almost everything that Ms. Sachs does, but she focuses more on the drug and alcohol piece, and I focus more on the mental health piece. And I also, part of social work, not just working with the mental health, is I'm a community member as far as helping different people and connecting people to services. So that's one of the main jobs that I do here as well.
We're very excited to have people here tonight and also our film crew as well, so we're able to stream this to parents. We have the prosecutor's office in today to talk to you about cyberbullying and sexting, and our two speakers this evening are detectives Mitchell and McDonald. It's a good thing my LASIK works, I can see that far, and without further ado, we'll let them go ahead. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Hello, everybody. My name's Kyle. I'm a detective with the Cape May County Prosecutor's Office. This is Danielle, also a detective. I'm in High Technology Crimes Unit, which means I do cyber investigations, computer fraud, theft, cell phone investigations, forensics for computers and cell phones, and of course investigations relating to cyberbullying and sexting.
I'm Danielle Mitchell. I've been at the prosecutor's office for a little over 3 years. I'm in the Special Victims Unit, where I deal with child abuse and sexual abuse cases within the county. Our unit also joins together with the other municipalities in the county, and we work together for those types of cases. Also, Kyle and I go around to all the schools within Cape May County. We've also been to some schools outside the county, where we talk to students about sexting and cyberbullying, and also parents like yourself.
I'd like to take this time to thank you for coming out and showing your interest and learning about this topic. It's a very important one to go over and have at least some knowledge on with your kids.
And when we go to the schools and talk to the kids, we like to educate them. That way they know what could happen to them when they do cyberbully or do sext. And now that we're educating you as well, hopefully everybody can get together and talk about it. That way everybody's aware of what type of punishments are out there and what could happen to them.
This is the world we live in now. We live in a day and age where everyone has a cell phone, everyone has a computer, tablet. They have some kind of media access. These are just a couple apps that are available to download. Some of them you might see that are familiar, some of them might not be familiar. One that we get asked about a lot is Kik, K-I-K. We bring this up first thing because this is one of those apps that your kids may or may not be using to hide conversations from you. So you guys can go on and check text messages and read what they're saying if they don't delete them. But if you don't know to look here, you won't see that this is another text messaging app that they can use. It provides a cell phone number, it provides an ability to communicate with the outside world, and it's all free. It can be done from any device that has an internet connection. It could be a tablet, it could be an iPod. It doesn't have to be a phone.
And through our presentation, we'll go over different apps and different social media applications. That way you're aware what your kids are using, because you didn't grow up with this type of stuff. Your kids are. So they're going to be one step further along than you are going to be. So now you have to play catch up with your students. So we'll go over different things throughout our presentation. That way you're aware of what they're on and what they're using.
We're going to ask if you guys have any questions. Hold them till the end. Write them down so you don't forget them. But hold them till the end, and we'll address them as time goes on. We cover things kind of out of order, so we want you to hold them till the end, and we'll address them then. In all honesty, with these apps that are out there, we play catch up too. Kids are always the first ones to find out about them because most of the apps are marketed towards kids. That's the prime age, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry for these apps through advertising and through things that are sold in the apps. So we play catch up. We always learn about these apps from the kids themselves. We're going to start off by talking about sexting. Sexting is sending a nude photograph through means of technology. It can be social media, can be through text messaging, email, it really doesn't matter. This is Amanda Todd. Amanda Todd was a teenager in British Columbia, Canada. I say was a teenager because she ended up killing herself. She's famous for telling her story on YouTube. She has a YouTube video in which she has note cards depicting her story, and she flips through them. She's a very, very famous case of both cyberbullying and sexting. We tell you guys about this. We tell you why she's famous because we want you guys to go out and check out her video. We don't have it in the presentation tonight because we want you guys to get involved. And it's a very powerful video, has about 40 million plus views on it. But even after her death, she is still being cyberbullied.
So like Kyle already said, sexting is when you send nude photographs of yourself or of others by means of technology. So whether you're using social media apps, emails, text messages, it's when we go to talk to students, a lot of times they think it's just the word content, like sex and texting put together, sexting. But sexting is actually the photographs of individuals that are being swapped back and forth or sent back and forth through text messaging, through social media, any means like that.
These are 3 stories of sexting and cyberbullying. Amanda Todd, I already spoke to her story a little bit, but to go into more detail, she met someone online. She developed a relationship with this person over the course of about a year. She ended up really communicating with this individual, but they never met in person. I'm going to let that sit in your heads for a second. She never met this individual in person. She ended up sending a nude photograph of herself to this individual after dozens of requests. Once this guy got this topless photo of her, he requested a private webcam show, or else he was going to send that picture to everyone in her school. He ended up making a fake Facebook account and making his profile picture her topless picture, and friended everyone that she knew, her friends, family, any teachers that were at her school. She ended up having to change schools. Same thing happened again. This guy was rather relentless. He, again, made a profile picture, fake profile picture, her topless photo, sent it to everyone. She changed schools again. This is when she ended up trying to commit suicide. She drank bleach and tried to kill herself. She survived, but she was bullied relentlessly even after that. People were making fun of her for not being able to commit suicide properly. I can think of no lower way to value human life than to kick someone while they're down like that. And this is when she made her video. This is how she became famous. She's a large reason why we have the laws we have today. She has a very sad story. Obviously, she killed herself. But a little bit came out from that. She raised awareness about the problem. She made it so that other individuals can learn from what happened to her. And again, if you guys have the opportunity, I do encourage you to go look at the video.
Hope Witzel, she was a high school student who was involved with sexting, and she was shamed so bad because of the photograph that she sent and because it circulated around school. She was bullied within her hallways, and she couldn't even walk to class and get to class by herself. She had to be with a group of people because of the bullying. And eventually, because of the bullying, she committed suicide as well. And Jessie Logan, she was also a high school student. She was a senior in high school who sent one photograph to her boyfriend. That one photograph, when they broke up, ended up getting circulated throughout the school. She graduated high school. Shortly thereafter, she committed suicide as well. Back then, with these girls, there was no sexting laws because the laws and technology is always one step ahead of the laws. Laws are always trying to play catch up. So with these girls, there weren't laws that went along with sexting. So it was very hard at the time to have any type of punishments when these photographs were getting circulated.
For Jessie Logan, she actually told her story on the news. They grayed out her face, changed her voice to disguise her, and she told her story. She ended up later attending another student's funeral who committed suicide and proceeded to do so herself. Her story aired on the news, and later they interviewed her mother about this. And her mother was very quick to blame, and she should be. She was upset at the school. She was upset at the police for not doing enough. But really, the one thing that all these stories have in common is they all started because one picture was sent out. We're trying to educate you guys, we're trying to educate your kids on that when you send that one picture, you can never get it back. Amanda Todd, her individual that did this to her over the course of many months, a year. He lived in the Netherlands. It took him 4 years to catch him. And he had 15 plus other victims. All these girls went through the same thing with this one individual.
And when we go to schools, we talk about these three individuals. That way, they don't know just what the consequences of sexting could be, but also how bullying and cyberbullying could lead to somebody harming themselves and somebody being depressed and eventually committing suicide. So we want to bring awareness to both ends of the circle of what happens when you cyberbully and when you sext. Slut shaming is a term that was created, and a lot of students know it. We didn't create this term, but a lot of students already know what it means. It's basically when you have a photograph of yourself and that photograph gets circulated, everybody only has one idea of you now. No longer are you the star athlete in your football team. No longer are you the smartest person in your math class. You're now known as the one person that nude photograph was circulated around school. And that's the only thing that they will ever remember you as. So because of one photograph that you can never get back, slut shaming is a term. Instead of saying bullied, you're now slut shamed.
We get asked frequently why students sext. It's a newer phenomena that has happened only since the creation and popularization of computers. And we have found through our own experience and through several studies that we have located online that the majority of times students sext is because a partner asks for a picture. And overwhelming majority of the time, it's a guy asking a girl for a picture. Over the course of time, through pressure, through trying to wear them down, eventually some girls will give in and send pictures. The guys that send pictures are frequently sending the pictures without even being asked for them. They're just kind of sending them on their own, own free will. We've also found that recently, and this is a very recent change, we haven't found any studies to back it up yet, but there are individuals that, specifically girls, that are doing this to try and gain popularity, trying to gain acceptance. We must iterate again. This is not something that's going to improve a social status. Even if it's a temporary boost, eventually it's going to catch up with them. It may be a couple days, it may be a week, maybe a couple years, but they have negative effects on their future. Look at how we do job interviews now. We go to hire an individual for a job, first thing we do is Google them, see what comes up. We can't control if these pictures come up later on, and students don't always have the foresight to realize that.
And now what we're seeing with students, another reason why they're doing it, not just peer pressure within their school, but also celebrities that they're following online through Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook are also doing the same thing. Athletes and celebrities are posting nude photographs of themselves and are getting likes. An example for you is Kim Kardashian, Miley Cyrus. These are people that your students follow online and they post nude photographs to improve their likes, and because of that, students think it's okay. So when we go to schools, we make sure that they know that it's not okay and there are punishments that are involved, and don't follow the negativity of celebrities and athletes that are out there.
To gloss over this slide a little bit, basically what this says is kids are young. They're going to make mistakes. They don't think about the consequences that are years down the line. So we can't necessarily get too upset at them, but at the same time, they need to start realizing that in the future, this may cause a problem. Some laws connected with this, and this is a topic of great debate, and we debated at length in our office with our attorneys. We've debated it with school administrators, with parents. And a nice medium ground I'll go over in a little bit. The first three laws up there, you see manufacturing, possession, and distribution of child pornography. These laws are typically meant for true predators of society. They are associated with absolutely heinous crimes, and they're not necessarily applicable to kids. Now, the way the law is written, we can charge students with these crimes. We don't want to, though. We can, and we will if we have to, but we don't want to because these laws have strict penalties and strict guidelines. Each of these three are associated with Megan's Law offenses, which is a sex offender registry, which after the punishment is complete, so if there's any imprisonment or probation, after that is complete, they must register as a sex offender, and it takes at least 15 years for them to get off of the sex offender registry. Oftentimes, we feel this is too harsh for students. The next two on here, invasion of privacy and criminal coercion. Invasion of privacy is sending a picture without permission. So if an individual is sent a picture and they circulate it out to other students, that's an invasion of privacy on whoever initially took that picture. It's more appropriate because it doesn't have that Megan's Law stigma attached, while it still has the ability to give a punishment and an education to the students that make these offenses. Criminal coercion is a little bit worse. It's blackmailing. That's what happened with Amanda Todd's story. She was blackmailed into giving a private show, or else her picture was going to be circulated around. Both of these charges we have charged within this county. Not happy to, but at times we have to do this. Now, as far as punishment goes, an appropriate punishment is difficult to come up with. Who's going to be charged is difficult to come up with. This is a textbook definition for child pornography. That's why these laws are applicable. I'll get back to the punishments for sexting in a little bit. Cyber harassment. Cyber harassment is the cyberbullying statute. It was recently created after Tyler Clemente's death. Some of you may know Tyler Clemente was a student at Rutgers University. He was a freshman, and he contacted his roommate. His roommate's named Duran Ravi. They agreed to communicate before the semester began, and they hashed out who was going to bring what to the dorm. To make a long story short, Tyler Clemente was a homosexual and asked for a night of privacy away from Duran Ravi. Duran Ravi agreed, but set up a webcam to spy on Tyler Clemente. Tyler went to Rutgers. He asked for a new roommate. They are in the process of granting this wish. I don't know the details on how they were going about this, but it was the beginning of a freshman year. They're having difficulty locating an open room. Shortly later, Tyler Clemente asked again for a night of privacy. This time, Duran Ravi posted online saying, "Hey, anybody wants to come watch my roommate make out with a guy, come to this room." Tyler Clemente was a friend of Duran Ravi online, so he saw this post. Saw the webcam was set up, unplugged it, turned it off, did whatever he did. A couple days later, he posted on Facebook, jumping off the George Washington Bridge, and proceeded to do so. There was national outcry for this. There was members of the LGBT community that were very upset. This story made national news. And it also had a lot of social media support. Even bands made a song for this incident. Rise Against created a song just for this specific instance of cyberbullying. Very shortly later, they were able to draft this law. This law gives a little bit of teeth to a bullying incident that happens online. Duran Ravi was charged with numerous counts of invasion of privacy and numerous counts of other associated crimes. But in the end, he only ended up having a couple years of probation, which is not enough for someone who lost their life. With this law, we can charge and make sure that justice is met for anyone that is going through a similar situation. often get asked, what's the big deal about cyberbullying? It's kids being kids. There was bullies back when I was in school. What's the problem? I want you guys to think about anyone that you knew in school that may have been a bully to you. And imagine you're at school, you deal with it the best you can, you get to go home, and you don't see that bully. You have a couple hours of peace. Nowadays, everyone has one of these devices. Kids as young as 5, 6, 7 have these devices, and they're learning every day how to communicate on them. Imagine that same bully, but now you can't escape them because they're right there. And if you don't follow that person, you don't communicate with that bully, there's an overwhelming pressure to kids to make them know how things are going online, make them know who's bullying who online. Even if they're being bullied and they don't have that phone on, they're going to hear about it the next day, and they're going to want to go see what happened, what they missed online. So imagine that it's a bully you can't escape anymore. This is a problem, and it's a nationwide problem, and we're doing the best we can to deal with this phenomena. This is why we come and speak to you guys. This is why we speak to administrators and teachers and students to let them know, number one, we are doing something. Two, to educate the kids, to make them know they're not alone and there's help out there for them. They can seek counseling. They can seek other means of feeling better about the bullying, and hopefully work together to stop the bullying. Studies have shown that if students stick up for one another, it's more likely to decrease the bullying, and that's what we want them to do. For decades, we've said, go tell an adult, go tell an adult, go tell an adult. But we realize that that only helps if a student tells an adult, which many are reluctant to do. But if another member of their class sees someone getting bullied and they stick up for them and say, hey, that's not cool, that's not right, it works better to reduce the bullying.
If there is a post online and your students know that they're being cyberbullied, make sure that they block that person on that social media. That's one way to stop them if it's not going away. Make sure that they don't refriend them when time goes by and it's blown over. And make sure that you've reported to the teachers, to the school, or even reported to the social media, because a lot of the social media networks out there will take down anything that is negative if you report it. So make sure that your students are aware of that, because they don't like anything negatively going across their walls on these social media applications.
Okay, I kind of touched on it. How do we decide who to prosecute for these? How do we pick who's going to be charged? When I said that we charge with invasion of privacy and criminal coercion, that's because that's what's most appropriate for our situation. Many people feel we should charge the kids with some type of pornography charge. But then when we explain about Megan's Law, they often feel it's too serious. So with how the law is right now, these are the most appropriate charges. Do we charge the individuals that initially send the picture? It's usually girls. A lot of times we ask this question and people say yes. A lot of people say no. There's no wrong answer here. The answer that we found fit best for our situations is, number one, if we're going to charge everyone with an offense, everyone's going to get some type of child pornography law, so everyone will be on Megan's Law. So we can't charge some with invasion of privacy and then the individual who took the picture with a pornography charge. It's not equal. And like I said, the recirculating of the picture is a big part of this problem too. We don't want that initial picture taken, but we really don't want it sent out either. So therefore, we can't charge them in that instance. And another reason why is the person who took that picture, they are the victim of the crime. Technically, they're exploiting themselves. They need help as much as possible. We seek to not only punish these kids a little bit that are involved in sexting, but we really want them educated more than anything. We want them not to make this mistake again. We don't want them to have something that negatively affects their future. In a couple cases that we have been involved in, the individuals that are ended up involved in sexting cases have actually lost out on scholarship money. So taking a low average of $40,000 a year for a scholarship, $160,000 lost just because they messed up one time. Currently, they are working on new laws to deal with this issue. They're working on sexting laws that are specifically aimed at juveniles. That way, they can have everyone be treated evenly across the board without having that stigma of Megan's Law. But this is something that's in progress. We've said it a couple times that technology is always ahead and the law has to play catch up. We're in one of those situations right now.
And it's a case-by-case basis. It depends on, through our investigation, through our interviews, by doing what we have to do, we can see who sent out what photograph and at what time, and decide who is really at fault here. If the students get a photograph without being asked, now it's on their phone. Should they be charged? As long as they did the right thing, as long as they went to somebody and let somebody else know, like their teachers or parents, that they've received this photograph without being asked, to report it, that way it doesn't get circulated, then no, we can tell that they can't get in trouble. But if they get a photograph without being asked and they recirculated that photograph, then yes, of course there's going to be punishment. If they take that photograph on their phone and it's now sitting on their phone, we ask that they report it or at the minimum delete it, because you don't want to be caught with somebody's photograph on the phone even though you did not ask for it. So we always get that question from the students, because how easy is it in a group text message or in a social media app to get a photograph because you're connected to everybody else? Now they're placed into a situation that they didn't want. So as long as everybody does the right thing and it gets reported, and we can go about our investigation and we can decide who really does need that punishment and who does not need that punishment.
I already kind of touched on this. This just is a formal way of saying we're working on it. Both with sexting and cyberbullying, for lack of a better way of putting it, we're going through growing pains. We're not used to this technology. It's all relatively new, and we have to play catch up. An administrator in Lower Township, his name is Chris Kobick. Gave a presentation down there a couple weeks ago, and he came up with a perfect analogy. Take the automobile. When it was first invented, it was obviously not going away. It was an amazing piece of technology, but it was responsible for thousands of deaths of kids until they were able to make it safer. It was something that they had to adapt to and change and perfect. And we're in the middle of that right now with our technology, with our computers, with our cell phones, social media. So, is it a perfect solution? I'm not about to say it is, but we're on our way. Hopefully in a couple of years, it's another problem we're dealing with, and this is a memory. Just a quick example of a sexting case. In North Penn High School, which is in, I believe, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, they had a group of there were a couple hundred kids actually that were involved with this. They shared a Dropbox. Dropbox is a cloud-based storage server, similar to iCloud or Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive. This one was unique because students shared a login for it, and they would upload the pictures to Dropbox, and a student could log in and retrieve those pictures at any time. And it was shared throughout the school, quite easily accessed. In this case, as an early case, they had to decide what they were doing. Do they charge everyone? Do they charge no one? They counseled the students in this particular case, and charges were eventually dropped. Another example, Louisa County. Several thousand images, 23 phones were seized. In this particular case, my sergeant actually spoke to the investigators from this because we went through a similar case. Like I said, this is a problem nationwide. The decision to charge or not charge is very difficult. expanded several counties. But what they ultimately found was kids didn't think it through. Eventually the phones were given back, and their idea was to not necessarily punish the students, but educate them and make sure that they knew what they did was wrong, and set the precedent that if they were to have another one of these investigations, charges would be something that they would pursue. They basically changed their DARE program to incorporate this type of material.
And it's interesting because when we go to different schools, we'll go there and then we'll educate the students, and then weeks later we'll get a new case that's out of there. Well, you already are warned on what the punishments can be. You already were educated. So now if you do it afterwards, then you should be punished. Like that school, the students did not know, like that study, the students did not know what the outcome could be if they sent out photographs of themselves or of others. So then that's why they went through the education process and a one-time warning. Us going to high schools is the same type of concept, and grade schools. Now us speaking to the students, and they are aware of what can happen to them and to their friends if they cyberbully or sext. Now they're educated. Now hopefully they'll think before they send out that one photograph.
And what we have found is it's not that we go there and they're like, oh, that's wrong, we should report it. Usually we go there, the incident happens, and then it gets reported. So it's a fresh incident. It's not something that happened in the past. It happened between our presentation and the reporting. Again, we need to all have a clear idea of what's going on. Students should know the consequences of their actions. I appreciate you guys coming out. That shows that you're interested. But in all honesty, this one presentation is not going to prepare you alone. You guys have to be able to go on and do your own research. You have to realize that kids are at an interesting conflict in their life. They have parents that frequently do not familiarize themselves with these amazing pieces of technology that can talk to space. They can go around the world in a millisecond. Parents don't realize how much information is available out there, what apps are out there. And this is definitely a good start, but this doesn't cover everything. You have to realize that your kids, if you're paying for the device, you're paying for the plan, they don't have a right to privacy. You can go through that all you want. And really, I'm going to encourage you to, just to make sure they're being safe. In my eyes, a right to privacy is not something that is a guaranteed right as a kid. It's a privilege that's earned. As you grow up, you get more responsibilities. This is no different. It shouldn't be handed over as a blanket item to keep them quiet. It's not only a device that can be used for good, but can be used for bad. The definition of a weapon is anything that is used to inflict harm on another person. So this could very well be a weapon. So we want you guys to go through your kids' phones, go through and look at what they have, what conversations they're having, what apps they use, and most importantly, do your own research on it. You guys probably didn't grow up with this technology available to you. Therefore, you don't know how to teach your kids unless you get vested in it. So we, again, encourage you, be active, do your research, understand what's out there. If you don't know what an app is, ask your kids. If you don't know what an app is and they're not telling you, Google it. Like I said before, the app industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. People want you to know what their app is about. That way they can get more downloads. They can get more sales on their apps and get more money from advertising. So they're in it to make money. And they realize that there is a market out there for kids and apps to hide things from their parents. And again, the one thing that we are going to preach is Amanda Todd's story. Think before you send. You can never get that picture back. You can never get that one hurtful message back. And you don't know how it's going to negatively affect someone. Here's a good section of the presentation where we get to go over a couple of the apps that your kids may or may not be using. Most people know about Snapchat. This is the icon for Snapchat. It is a social media application, which is used to send pictures and messages that are deleted between 1 and 10 seconds after they are viewed by the recipient. There is a misconception that this is a safe program to use. Unfortunately, there are many ways to get back these deleted images. One, an individual can take a screenshot of a video or a picture that is sent, or a message that's sent. Two, they can take a photo with another device. We have found that students, they call this doing a one-on-one, where they take a picture with one phone of something going on in another. That way the individual that sent the picture or message doesn't know a screenshot was taken. And number three, and probably the most tricky, is the phone actually doesn't delete the pictures. Through forensic investigations, through our forensic analysis of cell phones, we have found that most of the time we can get pictures back that are sent. So there's really no safe way to use Snapchat, but it is wildly popular right now. Is it a negative application? Should it be something that your kids avoid? Maybe, maybe not. I'm going to leave that up to you guys to decide. But there are plenty of social uses for it that aren't illegal. It is a very popular media app where messages are being sent regularly. This icon is for KeepSafe. Photo Vault. This is a app that is used to hide pictures from anyone that might pick up the phone. This is the icon for Instagram, and I'll go over that in a minute. This is KeepSafe, another program to hide pictures from anyone that may pick up the phone. These two applications are blatantly for hiding pictures or video or other media on the device. They're kept in a folder that is password protected that you can't get into unless you know this password. Now there is another application which is also very popular, which is called Calculator Plus. This one is the icon looks like the iOS, the Apple icon for calculator. And it has a code that you punch in, which usually includes numbers and symbols. And it'll unlock a secret area of the phone to have pictures on there. The only way to find that particular app is to realize that there's two icons for a calculator. One of them is going to be a legitimate calculator. The other one's going to be used to hide pictures. But the one that's used to hide pictures is a fully functioning calculator. It works just as well as the one that's built into iOS. These are just a couple of the apps to keep in mind regarding how pictures can be hidden. The problem is we can't show you all of them out there because there are constantly being ones developed. There's constantly new apps. That's why I'm encouraging all of you to get out there and do some research on what's available. Go onto the Play Store, go onto the Apple Store, and look and try and find the popular apps. Because if they're popular on there, odds are your kids probably know about them. And back here, this is Instagram. We've noticed a couple problems with Instagram, particularly that kids use fake Instagram accounts to bully one another. And the bullying scope is all across the board. It can be anything that is talked about on these. Some of them are made in a student's name, someone else that didn't want an Instagram account, and they post things that the person would not normally post, which is a method of cyberbullying. And kids think with all of these apps that they're being anonymous. All these can be tracked through carriers, service providers, and the social media companies themselves. We can get court orders to retrieve a lot of this information and continue our investigations.
With these applications, Facebook is not up there because it's not as popular with the students anymore, because the parents and the grandparents of the students are now on Facebook. So a lot of students have deleted their account or unactivated their account. Also, talk to your students about who are they friending. Make sure that they're only friending people that they are sure is that profile and is sure that they know them. Because a lot of times we'll get cases where people are friending people that they don't know and they start having conversations. They may say that they're a celebrity or that they're a manager of a celebrity. And students are okay and just start giving out information that you don't want out there to strangers on the internet. Also, make sure that your students don't have where they go to school on their social media applications, and that their locations are turned off, because all these applications are location based and anybody can see where they're at or where they're posting from. And you don't want strangers that they're friending or strangers that are looking at their profile to see where they're posting these pictures or posting their status updates. So really talk to them and make sure that you're aware of who they're talking to and what social media apps that they're using.
Kids are a trip when it comes to this stuff. They know this stuff like the back of their hand. And honestly, if you guys take the opportunity to talk with your kid about it, talk to your students about it, it'll help in the long run. It'll help you understand it better. It'll help them understand the consequences of their actions. When it comes to if you discover something on your student's phone, they come to you and say they received a picture that they didn't want. We're going to tell you that the first thing you should probably do is contact law enforcement, especially if it's involving sexting with an underage individual. This gentleman, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name because I'll butcher that, but he was a principal at a school. He ended up taking this student's phone and sending the picture of an underage individual, child pornography, to himself. And he sent it for preservation of evidence. Don't do that. Flat out, that is wrong. Through our investigation, we're going to figure out what happened, why he would do something like that. He ended up being charged, but over the course of the investigation through the trial, charges were dropped. I don't know the specifics on that, but I'm going to let you make up your own mind on that. But I'm going to tell you, don't do something like that. We don't want to see anyone get in trouble. We want people to use common sense and realize you can preserve the evidence without sending yourself these images or saving these images for yourself. That being said, we tell this to students, we tell this to teachers, and tell it to parents, all because it's a very important lesson. There was a teacher in Pennsylvania, I'm not exactly sure where. She had a nude photograph of herself on her phone. She did not have a PIN code on her phone. She set her phone down at a bar, and she was there with a friend. The friend picks the phone up off the bar while she was in the bathroom, finds the nude photograph of this teacher, sends it to every one of her contacts. So that included her family, included her coworkers, included her administrators, and she had her work email on the phone, so that also included her students. She was a tenured teacher. She ended up losing her job. Did she do anything wrong? Not really. Anyone over 18 is allowed to send these pictures. But she ended up losing her job anyway. She could no longer hold the command and respect of her classroom, and she could not file to get her job back. Now the friend absolutely did something wrong, and I hope he was investigated for it. Unfortunately, I don't have a follow-up for that story, but the sad part is she's out of a job. So we encourage everyone, parents, students, teachers, have a passcode on your phone and make sure someone else knows that passcode. God forbid something were to happen. We've had a couple investigations where no one knew a PIN code on someone's phone that went missing, and this is a valuable piece of evidence in those types of cases. We see who people are communicating with, especially kids, if they agree to meet someone that you don't know about. And if we can get into that phone faster, it might help save their life. Might help save someone you know's life. So again, have a passcode, make sure someone else knows it for general safety's sake. That's all we have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come out and listen to our speech. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask us. Yes.
Have you spoken to Ocean City High School yet?
Ocean City High School, not this year.
And last year.
I don't remember if we did it last year.
We haven't. We didn't do it in 2015, 2016, and so far for this school year, we have not been there yet.
We have been to the middle school and grade
Yes.
school, and we've been to probably 20 schools.
Yeah,
so